So maybe let's jump into the states of isolation workshop and explain you a little bit what it's going to be about. So
yeah, I'll jump in. So this is the second version of the workshop, actually. The second edition last year in April. So just like a month after the initial lockdown, we were obliged to, in a way, reorganize our idea for the workshop, and it was sort of like a spontaneous reaction and conversation about what we felt and what happened around, and this at this unexpected time, of course, of the pandemic, which led us all to the state of exception and the state of isolation and the state of lockdown, obviously. And in consequence, we had a physical isolation and digital, in a way, unity, let's say. And over the course of that week, our group took on an introspective look at the collective experience of isolation. And maybe just to also share a couple of ideas, we discussed a lot on the readings. This will be also an important part of our workshop today or this week. We discussed about visual strategies for the digital, let's say, messages in this crisis, and we also shared some personal experiences. I hope that you'll be open for this too, to discuss some of your feelings and some of the things that bothered you or that maybe made your recent life a bit more interesting or easier or whatever. You will be happy to share.
yes, exactly. So we'll do a lot of talking, I guess, or I hope we will do. So let me tell you something about the first edition as well. So although at that point we still had no idea on the scale of the problem we are working with, we used this opportunity to take a closer look also on a different visual strategies, as Maciej mentioned, used in the times of the crisis. So we were mostly focusing at that time on a simple website, which could be a statement. So we are looking not for strategies or the websites which are a response for the pandemic state, but mainly the materials which can be treated as a response for the crisis partly. So we did some research about what do people seek in times of crisis when it comes to that kind of web pages. So some of the people seek for knowledge, and we present also additional materials with the website which can be treated as a environment statement as well. So for example, here you have the main page of Low Tech magazine, which is another an example of a website statement. And this website, what is interesting about this website, it is the website of is solar powered, so and self-hosted. So it has been designed to radically reduce the energy use for accessing the web content. You can see this small battery icon on the right side, which means that, for example, this solar powered engine is full for 74%, and after when it's for example would be on 0%, the website will be shut down for the time of nighttime. So this is one of the examples on the website strategies as a statement as well. We also previously we were seeking for the organizations or the website which can provide some content when it comes to the pandemic state directly. So, for example, we're presenting the web page made by, I guess, Dutch graphic design studio. Web page which was a quick response for the pandemic situation. And this was like the initiative for bringing together like graphic designers who wanted to share their positive message to the medical environment. And the plan for this website, Stay Sane, Stay Safe, was to print all those beautiful posters and send it among the healthcare department, just to cheer them up. It was like the very simple, and some say maybe silly idea, but actually I think it was like kind of nice touch to the all this hardworking medical personnel. So also we were discussing the initiative called Pogotowie Graficzne, which is a Polish initiative mostly, which also brings together graphic designers who provide free visual materials for socio-political initiatives. Not sure if you heard about it, but I recommend you both to see the Stay Sane, Stay Safe webpage and Pogotowie Graficzne. So the posters from this initiative, Pogotowie Graficzne, can be used on social media or simply printed and used in another way, for example, in a protest. So whenever the Polish politics gets hot, Graphic Emergency, just like Pogotowie Graficzne, is ready to publish new materials. So
yes,
since
if I could just jump in, sorry, Natalia. So I think what is important to say about these two examples is that, you know, in the moment of crisis, they sort of don't try to abandon. People don't try to abandon, let's say, graphic design or what they do for a living every day, but they try to use the skills to contribute to give positive message or to initiate crowdfunding, which we saw was a big important element even for supporting the medical team, giving in reward some posters or illustrations designs. So I think this is important to see, because for me personally, sometimes there are times when I question whether what we do and what we are learning and what you will become when you graduate, and probably you already are working in graphic design, if this is an important element of our society. And I think this sort of activities show that we can do stuff which are not for the big companies. We can do stuff which are not only commercial, and I think this is important to have this idea in your head.
Yeah, I think the worst thing is like being passive or only an observer during some kind of crisis or emergency situation is like almost unbearable for some of us. That's why it's like a great idea to be involved or start some kind of initiatives which can which can make you more active and supportive. So this was our basic materials for those first edition of States of Isolation. And on the previous edition, on the first edition, we are working also with some kind of I would say basic like visual ideas. So at that point, we decided to work with the it's supposed to be GIF. Sure. Oh no, sorry. Okay, so I will start with this one. So we are working with the window frame, because at that time it was like we were treating it both as a physical way to see the world outside during the lockdown, and also as a metaphorical object to see the past and the future. So we ask the students to design a project, visual messages in the windows, we set some topics to make all the design more or less coherent. And based on the discussions and then topics, students were supposed to prepare some kind of collages or other visual messages. And at the end, we published them, all the visual messages, in form of GIFs on our website, which is like meanwhile.pia.edu.pl. And we will do the same this time. So all of your outcomes will be visible not only on this great virtual space prepared by Ola Heuristic, but also on our website with the description of the workshop, of course. So that was the previous year. Not sure if Maciej wants to add something more about this, but if not, we can move to this year edition.
No, I think, as you can see, probably this is a very simple idea, and this is something that we, with Natalia, we enjoy working on. There's this idea that we, everyone use their own window frame, and then in sort of imprint on the window their ideas and feelings and so on. So this was last year, and I think we can move on to start to talk about this year. Of course, as we all know, the pandemic stayed a little bit longer than maybe we imagined, and maybe in the summertime we all felt like this is already gone and we can, go on and enjoy our lives back. But well, it is what it is, and we all experience up and downs. We look at the charts, we look at the diagrams, we read the news, probably, hopefully, maybe, about the new cases, about the situation of the economics, about even protests in various places of the world. And it sort of became our daily routine, or our presence. And taking this into consideration, we decided to sort of adjust a little bit the workshop for this year. We can maybe move on. There'll be a slightly different outcome. We will not work with your own windows this time, but we will sort of have a more, I would say, frivolous technique for the workshops, which means we'll work a lot with collages, but at the same time we will keep this idea of the template which unifies everyone's artwork, and we will also work with different readings and discussions about the given topics.
So the basic okay, I will just jump in here. Basic, like the frames when it comes to workshop, will maintain the same. So we would like you to be active and engaged in terms of like discussion. So each day we will start with a talk or discussion about given topics. As we mentioned on the previous edition, we have like 7 topics, but right now we decided we will shorten this list and we'll give you like 3 topics, and we'll be talking about like the talk will be our discussion will be our basic tool, thanks to which we hope we do recognize and understand or reflect on our situation a little bit better. So I will present you right now the 3 topics we will be discussing during this workshops, and during the topics around which you will build your visual narration. So today we'll have the warm-up discussion, which we called the topic which we called good old habits. So this topic will reflect on the pre-pandemic state, which is like the old normality, I would say. So after all lectures will be done, we would like you to invite you on some kind of a reflection of the good old days, or the on the on the situation before the pandemic state. So we would like to involve you in some kind of small talk about things that you almost forgotten, so or the reality before. So it will be our kind of starting point for the further discussion about the current situation and future ideas. We'll just like basically talk about the reality during those workshops. But first, we'll start with the past. The second topic will be first lockdown revision. So this topic will open our discussion tomorrow. And during this topic, during this day, we'll take a closer look on our thoughts during the first lockdown. So for this one, we'll ask you to do some readings, to read some articles, but hopefully, some articles written by really interesting thinkers of the old and the new century. And the last topic will dedicate to the fantasies about the future. So it will be on Wednesday, I guess. So we know that the future is still, of course, obviously unknown, but we'll ask you some questions about your thoughts on the future of education, communication, human relations, and so on. So our maybe basically question will be, how do you think, how much of our life will transfer to the digital realm, and what are your thoughts about this situation? Of course, I wanted to. Those paintings which I prepared for to present you. Those topics are not coincidence, of course, because as we'll be talking more on the colleges, I think we would like to also open your minds in terms of visual of that. How to translate the verbal language into the visual outcome. So of course the future doesn't have to be dark, it can be bright as well. So we'll talk about this as well.
And maybe just to get back to the readings, as of course we all read or follow the news, they don't necessarily give us a deeper look or deeper, they don't search that much for what it means or for what it will mean or what it meant about the present, past, and the future, of course, but it gives us just this very initial statement. Okay, let's say this is 10,000 cases, or this is happening, or this is happening. So we choose these great minds that from all over the world to have a reading. And maybe just to quickly introduce, there's on the left side there's Giorgio Agamben, who's an Italian philosopher, and he mostly investigates this concept of the state of the exception, and also the concept of the homo sacer, which is the Roman concept of the individual who is banned from the society, and then therefore his rights as a citizen are revoked, and he is banished from the city, from the society. So we'll have a look at the short essay by Giorgio Agamben and discuss the ethical and political consequences of the pandemic. So this is for the starting point for tomorrow. Then on the right side we have Rebecca Solnit, who's a American-based thinker, writer, and feminist, and she writes on different subjects such as, for example, art of walking, or environment, politics, and of course feminism and art. So a very broad range of topics, which in a way they sort of all overlap.
And whoever will be more interested in this topic, we can share with you our other, let's say, friends, thinkers, which are in the middle, and which is Noam Chomsky and before Berard, but those are only additional mentions. Okay, so we'll move to another slide. Based on the discussion, talks, and the reflections, we would like you to do the project to prepare a visual outcome. And unlike last year, we will not be focusing on Windows this year. We would like to do something more, something else. So we would like you to do some, we called it like data-based collage, but it maybe like sounds pretty complicated, but it's not. Our main concern was to give you sort of like freedom of design within the few frames that we set. So it will be like, of course, like the projects. I mean, those projects are supposed to be your work, your visual journey, let's say. But it won't be like that easy. We would like you to mix it with a little bit of the data, database of the data of yours, actually. So what we did is we prepared some template on which you will be working on this one. And Maciej, you want to say something more about this one, or?
Yeah, I think the basic idea or the basic assumption we had is that emotions or feelings or call it whatever you want, they are sort of a data. Okay, so they sort of act as we collect them, as we judge them, as we evaluate them on even this sort of easy diagram. They can serve as a sort of starting point or a reference to talk about, you know, how we felt or how we will feel, and this is it's a very simple grid. I think you'll find it very easy to work with. It's uploaded in the files folder. So yes. As we move on for this long introduction to the task, I think you will find it in the files folder, and I think we can move on.
Yeah. So I just like wanted to add that we prepared the grid in a few different file formats for you, depending on which program you will be using for building your project, whether it will be like Photoshop, Illustrator, or some other. So as Maciej mentioned, you will find the grid later on in the file section, and as you can see as well, we divided this grid into 3 parts, I would say, when it comes to the horizontal axis. So maybe it was our subconscious, because this composition can be treated also in a symbolic way as a continuation of the sort of like triptych tradition. So let me just like walk you through this grid a little bit. So as you can see, the horizontal axis shows the time, which and the vertical axis represents the emotional values. So let's stop a little bit on the and discuss horizontal axis. The horizontal axis is like just basically the name of it's like, of course, the time. So pre-pandemic situation, the first window, I would say, first lockdown, and then at the end, new reality. So it refers to the future. So those windows are like exactly the same windows for our topic we'll be discussing. So the good old habits, which is like pre-pandemic situation, first lockdown revision, which is like first lockdown, and new reality, which is like the same as the fantasies about the future. And vertical axis represents more like emotional values, named like in a very general way, from the from the very bad state of emotions or anxiety or whatever to the very good state of mind. And what we will ask you to do today is to download this grid and have a reflection on your state of emotion, your thoughts when it comes to the pandemic situation. And your first task today will be to fulfill this, basically this chart. So, for example, when you think of the pre-pandemic reality or the old reality, we would like you to like mark some points where do you see yourself or your life. Was it like were you like feeling good or not really, or where's your like starting point? And then we will ask you to do the same at one point when it comes to the referring to the present reality, and then what are your hopes when it comes to the future. So this is like the just an example how it can be fulfilled by you. Of course, you can use some other colors or marking points or whatever. So the thing is, I did like this example I did by myself. So, for example, I choose some points I thought represents my state of mind, but then of course I had to make some corrections when I looked deeper on the past. But what is like the most important thing, that those points will sort of set us the path around which we will build our visual composition. So you can see right now that that my path is like, I don't know, maybe pretty low with some high points at the end. Yeah, but this one, this chart is supposed to set you a path, design path around which you will build your project. So this is like for today, some basic task, basic data collection, subjective data collection, and then as today we will discuss first topic, and on the other topic you will be adding some visual elements, some objects which are which will build the whole collage. So, for example, yeah. So this is like my very briefly made collage about the past, about my thoughts at that time when it comes to the new reality, because I just yesterday reminded myself that I started some new things, and I was like felt anxiety about them. I just basically felt like Christopher Columbus before the pandemic state. And of course, during the pandemic, during the first lockdown, I wasn't feeling very good. But then, just to give you like the brief example how it can be, this template can be treated. But at the end, I felt some hope when it comes to the future. I had to, so I like treated myself as a the Christopher Columbus who can now fly into some new lands, into some new hopes. And yeah, this is like very brief structure of one of the, I don't know, the visual outcomes that may appear during our work. But of course, it's not, it doesn't have to be like strictly like this. So yeah, I would just like give you, gave you some kind of like, guidelines when it comes to the design process.
Maybe if I could just comment, what is important also is that there is sort of like a main topic in this work. Okay, so as maybe this is my judgment, but as often in collage, it seems that there is sort of like the elements are chosen because they feel good, they look good, which is of course a visual approach there's nothing wrong with it, but we want to sort of have you to think about it before starting to create and cut out elements or whatever, so that we can have something which will be an idea, and then the creation or the outcome of the process. Okay, so just keep in mind that we don't want to just jump in and throw some random stuff into Photoshop or whatever you work in, but we want to have a coherent topic.
Yeah, so basically what are you will be doing here? Most of all, you will be building some visual narration. I mean, just treat it as maybe some kind of task, more some challenge. You will be building a visual narration based on some set coordinates, which is, I guess, a little bit similar thing to data visualization process, because you will have some subjective, of course, data around which you will have to work. So in this way, we would like to combine the emotional, the private aspect of the work together with some kind of database or objective situation. So this collage will be like the building. This collage will be like similar to building like the data narration, and maybe right now just to give you some a broader horizon of when it comes to the data and infographics, will provide with some examples, a few showcases when it comes to the presenting the data in a very different way. So I'm sure that all of you are familiar with infographics even on a basic level. So those are, of course, visuals based on solid data, which and those infographics right now surround us like every day, giving us some kind of recognition in reality. And maybe because the Western society is mostly basically science and data-based society or civilization, so our technical progress makes the data available for everyone, and the job of a design is to make them more understandable. So pandemic, of course, is no exception. We collect data and publish them. We search for the data with the hope to understand the whole process of the pandemic state. We try to predict the future and come up with some solutions. So data can be presented in a multiple way, from traditional structures to more subjective and poetic narrations, and we will move in our workshop more to this. We will underline the last one, which is like poetic narration. So these days, the crucial purpose of data design is to show not only, of course, the points or the rough data, but mostly to show the process. So to make some sort of maps of various processes, because this is what is like the most appealing way when it comes to the data design data. So we'll give you some examples of narrating, of data narration, of how to narrate that kind of like set coordinates which you will have. So first of all, maybe here you will have some on the right side, which is like, I think, more interesting. You have the part of the famous chart of the map history. So this is like let's say the poetic infographic made by Sebastian Adams. And this infographic, this one here, we have like only the part of it. I will maybe upload the whole thing because it's really enormous infographic on our files. So this infographic shows the ultimate timeline, I would say, spanning almost 6,000 years of our humankind history. So it shows how different global events happened simultaneously on the simultaneous layers. So for instance, Adams shows the like simultaneously events which happened among like different cultures, like Eastern Empire, Western culture, and so on and so on. So this is like one of the very interesting example on how to like show the process that which is like that complicated as humankind history. Okay, so I will move on.
Maybe I'll jump in. So just to give you some ideas of how we see graphs and charts and data, this is a very classical graph from 200 years ago, and it sort of represents the march of Napoleon army on Moscow. So starting from the left side, you can see the whole sort of size of the army of Napoleon, and then going through different cities and different, of course, on the bottom, temperatures. They face a lot of problems, not even fights, but they sort of struggle to march to Moscow with the whole size of the army. And then the black line, the thick black line indicates actually how many soldiers returned to with Napoleon to the border of Poland. So I think this is maybe not very intuitive to read at the first time, but it's very interesting correlation between the size of the army, the timeline on the bottom, and also the temperature, which was shown on the bottom. And you can see there are like minus 30 degrees or 20 degrees. So a very interesting way to show something which probably would not be easy to explain, or maybe let's say it differently. It's easy to explain that they started with, let's say, 500 people and they end up with one person. But this gives you just a different sort of access to this information. I think we can jump on to the next slide. And another very interesting example of how England perceived Europe in the 19th century, how all the sort of geopolitical struggles were portrayed by the illustrators. Let's jump on to the next slide. Again, another example of how the Polish underground state was organized in London, and what kind of departments, and also the size of some of them are also presented here, and the influence they had on the right side, which is Poland state. I think we can jump on to the next slide. Right, and then also it's very important, I think, to remember that as data is more and more accessible, we have the concept of big data and so on. But it's also very easy to sort of lie with data. On the chart on the left, this is one of the examples. You can see that, for example, the high-income countries, they tend to live longer, but they also tend to have a sort of similar consumption of cigarettes, and it means exactly nothing, So there is no correlation in this case about the income of the country and the cigarette consumption per person, and it just means nothing. So watch out for any kind of this tricks on data and charts. As you read them as they sort of are our reality, with also with the pandemic and so on. So I think we can move on.
Yeah, let me just add that this is like also our work as designers to make like the right, I would say, correlations between the data, but because nowadays it's like really easy to manipulate the data or to jump into the wrong conclusion just based on some data which is like basically true, but the correlation between them aren't necessary to be true. So as I underline again, building that kind of like charts or visuals from data is just like the same process as the building any other narration. So this is like I would like you to keep in mind that what you will be doing during this workshop is to build some visual narration. Maciej?
Yeah, and maybe just the last example of so this is the way the Spanish designer and architect artist she presented the idea of how the coast should develop and what's the strategy behind this architectural development. Of course, this serves for more like a research and ongoing let's say inside project. This would probably not be present to public as a form. Okay, look, we will do this, because it's very difficult to jump in or read if you don't have the right the sort of the legend of the chart and so on. But just to show you a different example of how this could be constructed and used for internal purposes, I would say, rather than external way of sharing knowledge. I think we can move on, Natalia.
Okay.
Yeah. So just very quickly, I would just maybe let's move on.
Okay. So this is like the one of the last examples when it comes to the data visualization. So this example is more complex process of narration with the sort of like even a poetic touch. So this is like a part of the work which is made by design group Bureau d'Etudes, and this design group has been producing maps for contemporary political, social, and economic systems that allow people to be informed and empowered themselves when it comes to the knowledge. So you can see here like a very complex map of some kind of internet system. So we have here the parts which is like the rough data interpreted in some kind of way, but also as you can see here, also you have some like those bizarre additional elements which are purely visual. So it gives like combine those elements gives like the whole mood of the map and of the situation which with which we are like dealing, and give us some additional some kind of poetic touch. So the main question is how we can show the data in a more appealing way. So here we have some basic image from the biology book Nucleus, and now we'll show you some few examples of making the data or that kind of objects, but data mostly like more emotional in a way. I will call it like the data dramatization or something like this. So based on scientific images, I will show you how that kind of like thing like nucleus can be showed in a more appealing and interesting way. And this is like something more painting like objects, which will be like similar even to the things that we will be creating. So you right now, I guess, I hope know the like basic examples of how the data can be shown visually, so there's like variety of possibilities, but we would like you to make the more poetic examples based on a data. I mean, it will be our starting point, but then we would like you to be encouraged to build some kind of more like poetic narration. So this is like the images built by the artist called MRK, and those images are like built on the inspired by a cell biology, atomic structure, and but at the same times those are like at the same times like the information, but at the same time those are like visual posters. And I believe that this kind of diagrams are more appealing and showing this like more organic shape of the cell. Also, it gives like less abstract touch. So I think it's like very interesting example of how the like sort of data or rough information can be shown in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, Natalia, I would just argue that they seem more horrors than the basic drawing from the biology book. But anyway, so this is two last or three slides. What also is we'd like you to jumping back to the collage sort of aesthetics. Just this is a great example, and I hope that you'll see more of this in the second lecture very soon by Kuba. But anyway, what is also important that if you choose the images for the collage, if you choose the images for your work, each image itself represents something, and it's not only a lady, but it's also a lady from the 50s or 60s, calling by her dress. Then contemporary, we can see soldiers, which are also having certain uniforms connected to certain times. So there is, the whole range of meanings that they overlap in a single collage to create one meaning or one collage or one image. But going into the sort of details of the collage, we can, also try to find this different sort of information that is embedded there. So this is something that we'd like you to keep in mind, that if you just go on and search for images, which we'll encourage you to do, of course, keep in mind that they sort of have a certain representation of times and, ideas and so on. Okay.
Yeah, they have like the whole context with them.
Yeah, let's go on for the next one. And this is also just the last example. As you build your work, I think that it's not only about cutting out the images, but it's also about looking for a way to sort of combine them. So we will work on editing the images so that, let's say, the lighting is a little bit coherent, or we will draw shadows for the images so they have this feeling of depth. So there is sort of more steps that we have to take, which are some kind of visual practice, so that the image seems more appealing. It's not flat. It creates one coherent image, which we'll be aiming for. And also, as I mentioned before, to have this sort of basic idea. In this case, you can see there's the typography to protect and serve, which it could be probably invisible, but we would like you to have this sort of idea or the statement behind your work for the week, so that we can also evaluate what the elements that you throw in the collage and so on. So keep in mind that we have this single statement or idea behind everything that we should do in this week.
Yeah, okay, so we are almost done with presenting the details of the next few days. And in a few minutes, Kuba Debczyński will present you a lecture which I hope give you a broader perspective when it comes to the not only the art history in general, but also when it comes to the collage structure. And so I will present you briefly the schedule for today. So we will repeat it, I guess, like after the lecture, but just for you to know, today we'll ask you to prepare your chart based on your thoughts and individual emotional states. And after the lecture, the Kuba's lecture, will move to the short discussion about the first topic. Maybe give you a minute to prepare yourself a little bit, or just like to think about it. And at the end of the day, we will provide you with the text of the Georgia Gamben, which you should read for tomorrow's session. So hope the whole idea is clear and understandable for you. If you have like at this point any additional questions, please please tell us about them or reveal yourself. And if not, I guess we can end this
Yeah.
the short introduction.